Yeah, messieurs! Welcome back to the Spearfishing channel. In this week's video, I'll be covering a few epic days of diving which happened right after I fumbled one of the biggest fish of my life.
Like 40 pounds, doggy, bigger than your first one. That take 2 seconds. Watch how much reel line gone. Not even 2 seconds, that just...
On this day, we were just out targeting bigger fish, and at this point we hadn't seen anything to shoot. When we dive like this, I like to dive as slow as possible, and on this drop I was in about 45 feet of water. Once I got close to the bottom, I started grunting to attract anything that was close by, and it didn't take long for me to see the fish that I came here for. That fish was a big barracuda, and the fight was on to keep it away from the reef. However, I wasn't quick enough and I signaled Jamile to put in a backup shot. Jamile secured that fish with a shot straight through the cheek, so all I had to do was put it to sleep and unwrap my line from that boulder. At this point, I hadn't really thought about it too much, but as I was pulling it up, the size of that fish fully registered. This fat barra weighed in at 16.5 pounds, and it was the only fish that we got that day. However, the next time we went out, I managed to get something a lot more impressive. On this second day, me and Jamile went out with Make It Happen, and as soon as we hopped in the water, I saw some solid fish. There was a big set of Washawou or rainbow parrotfish coming in and out of this wreck, and I knew I would have to use all my skills to get one. On the surface, I had already planned my drop, and I landed behind this coral to stay partially hidden from them. Then I did some subtle grunting just so I didn't spook them, and I scratched on the rock to make some more noise and to bring up moss. I also made sure not to look directly at any of them, and eventually one of the biggest ones got a little too curious. This was a really solid Washawou coming in at 8 pounds, and I made sure to brain and bleed it right away to preserve the eating qualities. These are also some of the hardest fish to hunt in St. Lucia, so this was an insane fish to start off the day. After I took that Washawou, a lot of the fish in this spot went into hiding, so we moved to another zone. This is an area I've shown a couple times in the past, and it's a spot where I normally see a lot of big grey snappers. Like I normally do in this zone, I made my drop up current and I used it to my advantage to glide into position. After a while, this small grey swam right up to me, but it wasn't even remotely big enough to shoot. However, for this big stoplight parrotfish, that wasn't the case. This fish weighed in at around 3 pounds, which is a really solid stoplight, but given the fact that's all I saw, we didn't stick around for long. We ended up stopping at Point, which was the same area where I got destroyed by that giant king. With that fish still at the back of my mind, I decided to work the deeper areas, and as I was making my drop, I saw the silhouette of a mackerel. Because of the size, I just thought it was a big Cerro, but then once I saw the patterns on its side, I knew this was my chance at redemption. Unlike Cerros, even these small kings have insane power, and it took some serious effort to stop that run.
Jamile! Jamile! Oi! I have a king! About 10 pounds, 10-15 pounds.
The fight seemed to be going good at first, but as soon as I saw the fish again, I could see my shot was barely holding on.
I need a backup shot bad!
Luckily, Chowder made it to me in time and he made sure we landed this fish.
Bad boy. Dead now, eh? Can't go nowhere.
This 8-pounder was a pretty small king, but it felt so good to have gotten one after what happened last time. This was also the second one I had ever landed and the first one I got on camera, so it was actually a fish I was quite proud of. After I put my king on the boat, we decided to continue diving point for the rest of the day, but I didn't see anything else to shoot. However, this is not where the video ends, as the next day me and Jamile did some serious damage. Just like the previous day, we were back out with Make It Happen in the north of the island. We started out the dive super early and me and Jamile got dropped off near a spot that I hadn't been to in years. However, I didn't really know where it was, and while we were swimming around looking for it, I spotted something moving above the sand. I could tell it was a decent mutton snapper, but because of the depth, I couldn't make out the size. I just made sure to stay in the fish's blind spot, and as I got closer, it just got bigger and bigger. This beautiful mutton snapper came in at 9.5 pounds, and like all my fish, I brained and bled it to preserve the eating qualities. I also knew that this mutton was a really good sign we were getting close to the reef, and it didn't take very long for us to find it. Like I said, this was the first time I had been here in a really long time, so I didn't want to be too trigger happy in case there were any monsters in the area. With that in mind, I grabbed the gaff I made for octopus and I went down to harvest some of the big lionfish hanging around the reef. This is quite the unconventional way to catch them, but it works really well and it allows me to keep my gun loaded for bigger fish. These lionfish are an invasive species that have spread all throughout the Caribbean and are well known for being venomous. However, they are safe to handle as long as you remove the spines, and they are incredibly good eating, making them a perfect target for spearfishing. After taking that lionfish, I cleaned up the rest of them and started looking for some other species. On this day, the mark was absolutely loaded with smaller snappers, so I made sure to hit the edge of the reef, which is where the big ones would be hanging out. As soon as I hit the bottom, I saw a big shape cruising in the distance, but because of the thermocline layer blocking my vision, I thought my eyes were just playing tricks on me. However, I quickly realized that wasn't the case.
Shot I just did, doggy.
As you can tell, I was super excited about the shot I had just hit on this solid 5-pound yellowjack. That shot was purely executed by my reflexes and I didn't even have time to think before pulling the trigger. Also, for anyone who missed it, Jamil got his first ever mutton snapper at the same time I got my jack, and then he got his first ever Washawou, making this an incredible day for the both of us.
Boy.
Bye bye.
Good day.
Bad boy. 9 pounds. 7.5. Potfish, I haven't know. 9.5. 5. I am with that one. You know, nice fish. As criminals. Bad, bro.